Hello everyone, welcome back to Marvel Mania. I am Captain Logan.
And I'm Eric.
And today Eric and I are going to watch and discuss Deadpool. We're going all the way back to 2016 in order to chat about a really raunchy, sometimes, kind of disgusting humor superhero movie. The kind of thing that you would immediately at first glance would think is not at all my thing. And it's one of those things, I don't know, sort of like AVGN or something, where there's so much clever humor that it kind of balances out for me.
Mm-hmm. And you liked Kick-Ass.
Have I? Yeah, I like Kick-Ass. Sometimes I look at a thing like this and I'm like, I feel like I've been corrupted a little bit, Like my sensibilities over time have maybe changed a little bit, or there are things that I used to, really resist that I can, at the very least, handle now. And I worry that I've gotten too desensitized.
My living here hasn't helped.
No, not at all. And I sometimes enjoy monster movies now, which is a thing that, I never used to have. Deadpool is a character that I actually knew more than your average bear going into, because one of our subscribers, and I apologize, I can't remember who it was, and I think he wanted to remain anonymous at the time anyway, but I can't remember, years ago, sent me the Joe Kelly stuff. Mm-hmm. And so I've got the first, 5 or 6 classic volumes in my lexicon
Which
now.
is the best Deadpool stuff and kind of the only Deadpool stuff worth reading. I know you like the Colin Bond miniseries, but those are kind of out of continuity.
Yeah, sure.
But as far as, mainstream
Continuity
Deadpool,
stuff, yeah.
That is where Deadpool is created, and it's kind of the last time he was great.
Yeah, and I was excited that as much of that was in this movie as was, but you wanted more.
I wanted,
and that'll be interesting.
This movie is so watered down. This is basically a PG-13 movie with F-bombs. And
well, some of the humor you couldn't get away with in a PG-13 movie. Not just that. It's some subject matter stuff, I think.
Maybe.
It is certainly going for some of that shock factor, but it is that level of, that brand of comedy.
It's so watered down. They take all of the darkness and the tragedy out of the character.
And
he's
not a psychopath?
He's not a psychopath, and it has this too cool for school thing that we'll talk about that I really don't like. Yeah,
and this will be interesting. I think Eric and I will disagree in some places.
Absolutely.
Because there are some things, some issues you have with this that don't bother me, and a couple of things that I don't think are really, for my taste, for me, aren't really problems, but I totally see where you're coming from.
And then there's the Rob Liefeld thing.
Yeah, and we'll talk about that, because that's one of the things that I don't have with you.
It drives me up the wall, especially because Joe Kelly isn't name dropped.
I know, and he should be, but we'll talk about that.
Okay.
I feel differently about that than I used to.
Okay.
But anyway, so we're going to go ahead and get into Deadpool. I'm excited for this. This is a lot of fun. Regardless of how you feel about how it was adapted, it's a good time.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's quite funny. I saw it twice in theaters, and I've not seen it since.
Oh, cool. I saw it twice, and I've seen it at least once since I bought it. This is one of the few things that I actually did sit down just for the heck of it and watch after I bought it, which tells you how much I enjoyed it.
And it had the best marketing campaign.
Had the best marketing. The marketing campaign is as good or better than the film is.
Is that on the DVD? Because it should be.
I think some of it is.
It should be.
Yeah, but the marketing campaign was almost as entertaining to watch as the film too.
Mm.
It was a lot of fun to see when stuff would pop up and
he
would just show up in places, and being a fourth wall breaking character and that kind of thing, like he ought to.
The fact that he showed up on I'm not the biggest fan, but I think it's Honest Trailers. He showed up on Honest Trailers. He showed up on Honest Trailers for his movie.
Did he?
Yeah.
Oh, I forgot to watch that one. And then there was the really amusing Betty White thing.
Yeah.
Did you see that?
I saw a link to it, but I didn't actually watch it.
Where she did a review
before
the movie came out and just threw all these out. Usually, this is the best effing movie of the year, and it was hilarious. And I get the sense she watched it. I'm not sure, but I think she might have watched it. But anyway, let's go ahead and get into it. And I wonder if she was at the red carpet. She should have been at the red carpet.
She should have been at the red carpet.
But anyway, let's go ahead and get into this. If you want to,
so should have Joe Kelly. I bet he wasn't. I bet Rob Liefeld was.
Yeah, I do feel that way, but I don't have the Rob Liefeld thing as much as you, but I do wish Joe Kelly was mentioned. But anyway, let's go ahead and get into this. If you want to watch it with us, get out your DVD, your Blu-ray, your digital copy, however you want to watch it. Get it to timestamp 0, past all the menus, and get ready to press play whenever I say now. Here we go. Everybody, please press play right now. I don't think this movie does the X-lingering thing, because it's not technically an X-Men movie.
I don't know.
But I guess we'll see. It's... That whole thing is weird. We live in topsy-turvy Looney Tune land now, right? Where Deadpool... Yeah, it doesn't. Where Deadpool is, kind of more popular, or at least as popular as the X-Men.
I think Deadpool's more popular than the X-Men.
I think so, too.
I think there's a lot of things more popular
now
than the X-Men that were not 15 years ago.
Yeah.
We've talked about how Wolverine is not kids' favorite character anymore.
This made my top 10 credit sequences.
Yeah.
It's hysterical.
It really is.
Because it's not credits.
It's the first Rob Liefeld reference.
Right, he's going to bring them
Screw
all
Rob
up. Okay,
Liefeld.
so why don't we just go ahead and get into that, since you're just not going to stop talking about that.
Rob Liefeld is a hack who ripped off Deathstroke.
Okay,
he
but
didn't create Deadpool in any real sense.
Okay, not his fault. This whole thing with they're constantly referencing him and stuff. You need to go tell that to the director and to Ryan Reynolds, because they don't know that.
But
they involved him. He was on set. He saw the movie like 50-something times before it came out in theaters. I listened to an interview with him, and I feel differently about this now because he was so involved with this production that I see why his name is all over it.
Well, then I'm going to complain about them for doing that.
Yeah.
But he also...
I'm just saying, that's not on him.
But he also spent the last decade of Deadpool becoming the biggest thing talking about how he created the character and how this is everything the character's always intended to be. He's Bob Kane. And it bothers me that the people making this movie are continuing to endorse this lie.
And part of my thing is I don't want to come from a place of ignorance, because I haven't read, and I own his first appearance. I've never read it, and I've never read anything Rob Liefeld has actually written with the
unrecognizable.
Character. So I don't know. I mean, there are a couple of things that he brought up, including I think this love interest that like he created, and shows up in his stuff.
The love interest is created by Joe Kelly. She's the girlfriend in that.
It might have been something else he was mentioning then.
Okay. Yeah. When you go read the Liefeld stuff, it's very clearly he wanted to use Deathstroke, and just made Deathstroke. And the design is...
You're right. I mean, it's disingenuous if he's acting like what Deadpool has become is what he always intended for it to be.
And that's what he does in interviews and on Twitter and things like that.
Yeah. No, in my mind, the character I know and like was created by Joe Kelly.
Yeah. And this movie borrows so much from the Joe Kelly stuff.
From that.
It's really weird that it's not...
It's a really fascinating amalgam, and it's amazing how well it's balanced between modern fourth wall breaking, nonsensical, not about anything, doesn't really tell a story so much. It just cracks a lot of jokes. Avenger Deadpool. And the really dark and twisted, but very much about things.
Yeah.
Deadpool that we had with Joe Kelly in the 90s. He's a psychopath who wants to be a hero and doesn't understand humanity. Can't get his head around what heroism even is, but really wants to. He's like Data from Star Trek if he was a nut job.
Well, and importantly, and this movie is going to ruin this. Importantly, he starts as a Wolverine clone. Like, he's a dark, brooding, doesn't talk a lot guy.
Yeah.
He's a real tough guy, and he's driven insane.
Right. And he's talking about in the Joe Kelly run.
Yeah, in the Joe Kelly run.
When you see flashbacks of him before he becomes Deadpool, before he goes through Weapon X, he's little spoken. He almost says nothing. If memory serves.
Yeah. He's a big, imposing, scary guy.
Yeah.
And he's driven nuts.
Is he a hitman already? I think maybe he is, or is he just a bodyguard or something?
He might be a government hitman.
Okay.
It might be because he's working for Department 8.
Like, he's hardened and he kills people.
Yeah. And in this movie...
That is a thing I didn't care for. I would have liked for him to have started from that place.
And with the structure this film is structured in, that's a sentence, it would have been so like, you don't have to spend a lot of time on him before he becomes Deadpool.
I think
it's because of the romance.
With the story they're telling, he needs to be likable before that happens.
And I have a major issue with that.
And they want Ryan Reynolds to be able to keep doing his Deadpool thing all the way through the film. So, like, you're asking it to tell a different story than they told, to be fair. If you don't do it. Because those aren't flashbacks, it's non-linear storytelling.
Yeah.
And I think the framework for the story they decided to tell is great. I think they do a wonderful job with it. I think it's a really economical picture. I think it does a really good job of using every penny.
Oh, absolutely! It's amazing how little this movie costs.
Well, it's effectively. Excuse me. We have two set pieces really for action,
and they stretch the one set piece across the entire first two acts. And it works completely.
And so the production values look bigger than they are, and I forget his name, the director, Tim Miller. Miller claims that with the sequel, regardless of how popular this was and how much money it made, that they're going to stay minimalistic. He swears they're not going to throw $1 bazillion at it.
Interesting.
And hopefully that's what they do.
Well, and he's not the director now, so.
Oh, I forgot about. I forgot all about that.
It's the other John Wick guy.
It hasn't been that long, and I'm trapped back in the week this came out now as we're talking about it, Mr. Poole. There is a part of me that really wants this movie to go full tilt with the fourth wall breaking thing down the road and have him reference like the world we live in even more than he is, and almost walk out of the screen somehow. I kind of think they should go full tilt with it. I would like to see them pull some of Bond in. I don't mean adapt really Deadpool kills the Marvel Universe, but what I mean is I'd love to see more reference to like the making of films of superhero movies and stuff, because we do a lot. There's a lot of that in this, and it's fun. But we remain as like neutral's not the right word, but we remain as vague about that stuff as we can. You know what I mean? Mm. One of the things you have to... You
wouldn't break your own car radio like that.
One of the things you have to be really careful of with a thing like this is remembering that you're telling a story while you have, all the constant wisecracking and, again, fourth wall breaking and talking to the audience, and it's masterful at that. And that's the thing I was most surprised by in the theater, is that it tells a real story.
I don't think the story it tells is great.
Okay, I'm not saying the story it's telling is great. I'm saying that that the way it does tell a story. It's a. I'm just saying I was surprised by that. What I mean is from the very beginning, you right away have a sense of what your protagonist wants, why he's doing the things. Mm-hmm. That's not a given with Deadpool.
No, you're right. You're right.
And so that all the deftness. The deft way that the story is presented was impressive to me.
Well, and it's interesting that there is this weird thing that happens with Deadpool, where Deadpool is a very specific character and he's written a very specific way, and there are Deadpool fans.
Yeah.
This starts with Joe Kelly, goes through the rest of that run into Deadpool and Cable, and then all of the memes finally catch up, and Deadpool finally becomes the big hit. And it's when Daniel Way is writing it, and most of the old Deadpool fans hated that run and it's the beginning of everything that Deadpool is now. But that's where most people started. And so you have this weird thing where this is the bad version of it, but that's where everyone started with it, so that now becomes the version of that thing. It's very strange.
This is technically the first year that we had 2 X-Men movies in the same year.
Yeah.
I actually ended up because
I'll talk about that in a second.
I was really interested in how they would deal with the timeline stuff, and they do exactly the right thing with it, which is this is
doesn't make
Deadpool's
sense.
continuity. It doesn't really make sense. It doesn't matter, and he references it such where all of this stuff could even be just unreliable narrator. Like, you never know if what you're looking at is exactly what's actually going on, because Deadpool is narrating his own story. So even when he's not on screen, I can't trust everything, and that actually, I think, works for it.
So, next time Teenage Warhead said something about the house blowing up every couple of years,
Yes.
and Colossus says, it builds character. This comes out before Apocalypse.
It hasn't happened yet.
It's never happened. Like, that's a comic book thing that the X-Mansion keeps getting blown up and putting back together.
Yeah.
It's so weird it's in this movie. And then, yes, it happens in Apocalypse, but one, I don't think they knew that when they were making this movie.
No, I don't think so either.
It's so weird.
And retroactively, it could keep happening.
Yeah.
Because there's time in between those things, and it's new continuity.
But when it's written and when it comes out, that joke makes no sense for the movies.
No, but I don't think anybody noticed. You know, I don't think anybody was.
Noticed.
I know, but I mean, general audiences, I don't that know the X-Men movies, because it's so confusing in its own thing anyway. Like, this was the first thing after Days of Future Past, and I was still in this euphoric haze of we're gonna actually fix that continuity now, and of course we all know where we're at with that at this point.
That's a
Where we
really
even
impressive
had
shot.
Yeah, it looks great. You mean through the bullet hole?
Yeah, looking up through the it doesn't look CG. It doesn't it looks really good. All the special effects that look really good in this movie, I think, are really impressive. Because was it 20 million? Like, it's a really cheap movie.
Oh no, it wasn't that cheap. It was like, I think 80.
Oh, was it 80 million?
But for these movies, it was cheap. I'll look it up. I forget. So, I think a lot of people probably found it to be a lot more of a novelty than I did that you have a superhero movie with a guy who's throwing constant F-bombs and saying a lot of this kind of modern raunchy slang. Because it's Deadpool, I'm expecting that. But also, and I know this is something you kind of wanted to talk about, and it doesn't bother me as much as it does you, but I do agree with you when you say that that you're too cool for school thing. That this movie acts like it's pushing envelopes that haven't been pushed before, and there are some that just kind of I don't know have. There's
a specific line that I'll talk about when we get to it, but this movie thinks it's coming out in 1979. Like this. Some of the jokes in this movie about superheroes don't even make sense post 89.
Yeah.
No,
and that is a thing we do constantly when we make fun of or reference other superhero properties. Is it tends to be generic, and this movie, except for the X-Men stuff, it also kind of has that.
It's
although I expect BVS jokes in the next one.
There's a sense in this a little bit, but it comes a lot from fans, and that's part of the problem I have with this movie is not this movie in and of itself, but the cultural zeitgeist around it.
58 million. It was right in the middle of what we said, yeah.
But it is this sense.
They're right. Francis is a guy's name is always funny. I don't know why it's always funny. I apologize for all the Francises out there, but that's always funny.
It's
sorry.
There's this sense that this movie has, and then its fans carry on that, like, Deadpool's cooler than all of the other superheroes because he doesn't care. And I have a moral issue, kind of, with Deadpool and his popularity. That this is right here. Wolverine does that next too. Like he's talking like he's so cool for doing this. Captain America murders people. Iron Man murders people. Like, you're not cool for murdering people, and the fact that you're like, look how cool I am, I'm murdering people, and if I didn't murder people, I'd be a pansy. Like,
you could present that in such a way where it wouldn't feel as generic and like you're ignoring the other characters that are violent, though. I mean, it's playing it like that's shocking and unusual because usually you wouldn't make it as gratuitous and like slow it down and stare at it and look how cool it is that we're skewering people. Like, it's because of Deadpool's attitude, right? Like, he does have that.
Well, but
over other characters. Wolverine isn't enjoying it in the same way. Captain America's not enjoying it at all.
But it's this idea that they are lesser. That they're not cool because they don't enjoy murdering people. And I feel like people that like Deadpool also share that. They think that Captain America's not cool because even if he kills people, he doesn't like doing it, and that makes him a wuss.
You think so?
It really bothers me. And this scene is one of the major reasons that I hate that people have that attitude, because this scene is a scene from the comics, and he murders this guy horrifically, but we can't go that far because this is a PG-13 movie. Like, he's
well, this is not a PG-13 movie,
but it is. This scene doesn't go far enough. He's supposed to be a crazy person. This scene in the comics, he like horrifically murders this person, but because we want him to be a good guy and you have to sympathize with him, we can't actually let him go to those places. And this is the first big scene with that.
And I see both sides of that, man. Like, I totally get why that bugs you, and again, because for what I would like to see more with Deadpool, it bugs me too, but it's the same thing as trying to take John Constantine right off the page. There are not enough people in the world that would appreciate that movie makes any money. That's the problem. Is we like the movie is making compromises, and it's managing to keep enough of a consistent tone and create a character that, at least in moments, I can sympathize with. I don't know about the ending. You know, I'm not sure, because I feel like he's easier to appreciate if he doesn't have humanity and he wants to have that. So like that, you know, that can be kind of endearing, and then you have the question of, does he kind of have it because he wants to have it? You know what I mean? Like you're trying to see him, you know, achieve that. Well, it's not the movie they're making, because then he ends up being like completely horrific, and he wouldn't be sympathetic scene to scene. He would be overall. You know what I mean? And can you make that accessible to a general audience and be able to validate the money you spent on this movie? I mean, I see both sides of that.
But I
was impressed that we got something as close to Kelly as we even did. Like I said, I guess I'm compromising along with it. And here, I'm just surprised any of that was
He
there.
does it not for money. He's a charity case. We're going out of our way to make this character as sympathetic as possible. But we're also going to glorify him slaughtering people. Own the fact that your character is not a good person, and make a movie about. We make movies about that all the time.
Okay, I guess the argument on the other side is he starts as a good person and he's not one at the end. And so maybe they're getting him toward what you're talking about.
Yeah, maybe that's what it's supposed to be. But to me, like initially, I was like,
that's why
we're watering this character down, and we're scared of what.
And that's why I say I have issues with that ending, because moving forward, it needs to be that.
And it's part of because.
And I'm hoping that's what it is. But I think the psychotic with a massive break with reality is more interesting than that.
Well, and it's because he feels like the exact same person here. It's because there is no change in this character. Like, he doesn't feel any less crazy here. I don't know, right? Like...
Well, again, I don't think he's supposed to be exactly crazy. He just doesn't have anything to lose, so he'll go much farther than you or I would.
But like, in the costume and here, he feels like the exact same person.
Well, he acts like the same person, but there is a change in behavior. So, I mean, there is a character arc. You know, most certainly. I mean, like... he cares right now, he's not going to care later. Okay, I mean, character arc. And it's not a happy ending. Exactly.
It's a pretty happy ending.
Well, yeah, except from his perspective.
Right.
But you got to look at it from the first-person POV. From my perspective, it's not, because he doesn't listen to Colossus, and altruism and... you know, and believing in people becomes something that he refuses to do.
But I think the movie's on his side. This is part of the making fun of superheroes. I think the movie is saying, that's all stupid and silly.
I think there's an argument to be made for that. I also think there's...
or like that's how I read it when I saw it.
I also think there's an argument to be made for this entire film is from this guy's perspective.
Yeah.
So some of the storytelling is unreliable narrator, but also it's all from his lens.
Yeah.
So if this guy is making a movie about himself, which is essentially what we're looking at, you'd agree with that?
Sure.
Then that ending for him is a happy ending.
Okay, but I would also argue that the majority of people that saw this movie were on his side and was like, yeah, shut up, Colossus, you loser, you believe in things like hope.
And that's the risk you take.
You wouldn't if you made this character scary in some way.
Yeah.
If you made it clear that you, the movie, are not okay with his actions, you don't have that. You don't have that at all.
And the reason this happens, and that's why I'm so impressed that this is blended even as well as it is, Eric, is we are trying to make everybody happy. And we have in the last 2 years...
And it's working almost as good as it possibly can.
In the last 2 years, we have seen so many movies completely fall apart because they have tried to make everybody happy.
She's also a character... We've had this discussion. I've had this discussion with other people. Nobody seems to really have a good read on whether she is or is not a prostitute. I don't think she is. And I will later see her attending a bar.
And I don't understand what you're talking about. She clearly is.
I don't think she is. I think it's all just like flirty, dirty talk. I don't think he's actually paying her for sex. I think...
No, he's not, and she's surprised by that. He's supposed to be. He decides not to. And time has passed when we see her at a bar later. Maybe she's not doing it anymore at that point. You see what I'm saying? You're talking about after he's gone through the Weapon X program and it comes back.
Yeah.
And is in a strip bar. She says we'll have some. We're about to get to it, but we have scenes here where he pays her to just hang out with him.
But I never think he's actually paying her. I think it's all the flirty game. I don't think he's actually paying her for that. I think they're joking.
Okay, well, he's pulling money out right now.
But it's all... it's not... Well, one, it's not money, and two, like,
He just said he's going to pay her $275.
But I think he's joking.
Why do you think that? I don't think that. I don't know where you're getting that. Why do you think that?
I don't know, because it doesn't seem like they're ever actually... because they're just flirting. They're flirting back and forth.
Right. And he's paying her to flirt with her.
Right, but the setup is them saying who has the more messed up life.
Right.
I don't think this movie ever actually implies that she's a prostitute. I think it's that they're joking.
Okay.
And part
I don't get that. I mean, and I would be interested to see if anybody else has that read. If that's what it's supposed to be, I'm missing something. So just because they like each other and they get flirtatious in the first place doesn't mean, like, I'm sure this happens in real life where like a prostitute and a guy that is paying her hit it off. I'm sure that happens.
But I feel like it's just
they're keeping track of the time. She said 48 minutes of whatever he wants.
I just think it's a running joke for them. I don't know. And then they're immediately in a relationship.
Yeah.
Because this is the calendar girl scene. It's going to go a whole year.
Right. It's a montage. Sure. What's your point?
I don't take it as her being a prostitute at all.
Well, maybe she was a prostitute and then now she's not. That was the assumption I made.
And part of this comes from...
here's the thing. You cannot buy that she's so attracted to him that she totally gives all that up right away, and maybe they could have made that more explicit. And this is a pretty explicit movie. But
this is the most explicit joke in the whole movie. Yes, it is. And it's nuts that this is in a movie, period. This is the one joke where I'm like, okay, you know what? That's the R-rated joke.
Yeah. I feel like there are a number of them, but nothing that goes that far.
Nothing goes that far.
Yeah.
I was shocked to see that in theaters. And that joke's great. It took me a second viewing to get that.
Thing? I love that. Yeah.
Now part of this comes from, going back to Joe Kelly, the -1 or issue 0, whatever that he does for Deadpool, which is where we see him as the big scary guy. She is a fascinating character who has a conversation with someone else.
I don't remember that.
Okay, so there's someone who's like infiltrating like Eyes on Wade or something, and pretends to be a prostitute and is talking to her, and she has a whole conversation about becoming who the person you're with wants you to be, and you go somewhere else in your head, and it's this real candid discussion of prostitution and what that mentally is like.
Yeah.
And then I got this,
yeah,
and I was like, well, there's a real deep, complex character.
I had forgotten about this character, yeah.
She's also a superhero?
Is she?
Yeah, she'll come back later, I think, in... Is she Typhoid Mary? She's someone. She's like retcon to later turn out to be actually like somebody else. She's the... I think she might be the prostitute that Daredevil pushes out a window at some point. There's a thing with her.
If I had remembered that, because it's been a long time since I read that stuff, and that's probably, what, 1 or 2 issues?
It's just one. It's I think it's -1.
Okay.
When they did that...
and I remember that, but I don't remember what the story that happens in it. But, so obviously I might feel differently about the choice, to do what they're doing with her. But as I always say, I try to take these things on their own terms. It's a romance I was surprised I cared about. And you gotta admit that they've got chemistry. Like,
no, absolutely. And this is the most loose I've ever seen this actress.
She's great.
She's great, absolutely. But it feels watered down and safe to me, and that's my biggest issue with this whole movie. I like this movie. I think it's really funny. It's impossible not to like Ryan Reynolds when he's doing this thing. We had that in Blade Trinity where we were like,
I think
he showed up as Deadpool and you can't not like him.
Yeah, I think the best argument I can make against that, Eric, is that and I feel the need to, because I don't think you would have ever gotten that. I don't think the world was ready for that. Like some people looked at this movie and were surprised that it made the money it did and wouldn't have thought that it was ready for even this. And the Deadpool that we like is not the one that's popular. That's the problem. And so I was impressed to even get as much of it as I know I keep saying that, but I'm just saying that we could have ended up with a completely nonsensical, just meme after meme after meme movie, and we got a story.
Yeah.
Yay. And I don't mean to lower my standards. It's not what I want, precisely. But I'm also optimistic and looking forward and thinking that we could get it there.
I hope so. Blind Owl's another big one.
Yeah. I'm glad she's there.
We kind of waste her, and
so far.
Yeah. In this movie.
But I mean, it's a franchise, and we haven't. The thing is, she hasn't gotten to do anything yet, so she hasn't done anything to piss him off yet.
Yeah.
And that's important.
And T.J. Miller as Weasel is great, and I want him more in the next movie. I also
think there's a really good chance that she just remains a background character, and we never do anything with her.
And that's gonna be that would be such a bar. But you can't do anything with her. You can't do any of the Joe Kelly stuff with her because that makes Deadpool scary.
Right, but
we're not doing that.
We're not doing that here. My point is, I think we could do it in a sequel. Yeah. Now, do I really think they'll take it as far as putting her in, having him put her in a torture room where she can't get out and she's blind and no. I want them to.
No, they won't even have a scene.
And that's not even my thing. I found that stuff really hard to get through, but I appreciated what it was doing, and I understood the, really twisted kind of horror thing we were doing with that.
I don't think they would even have, where, she doesn't know where she is in the house, and she's like, where do I go? And he's like, just take a big step forward, and it's stairs.
And she, drops, yeah.
I think it cuts there. You just see her foot lift up.
I just mean that she would have fallen. Yeah, right.
I don't think this movie would even go there. Maybe a sequel would, but I don't think they would because that makes Deadpool unlikable, and we can't have that.
Yeah.
In this movie.
But can we agree that in the comics he is not the character he was back then?
Absolutely, and
they are trying to be more consistent with where we are now.
Yeah.
Which is the Deadpool that got popular.
Yeah, and it's the Wolverine thing, right?
Yeah. No, it absolutely is.
But that Deadpool had substance, and I liked that guy. And I don't know.
Yeah, but he has more substance than the version that we've had more recently, I think. I haven't been reading the mainstream Deadpool.
I read the first volume of the stuff that Brian Posehn and Dugan did, and it's not bad. I didn't get because that run got a lot of like acclaim where like people are like I don't usually like Deadpool, but this run's really good. And I don't get that. It's good. It's the first 12 issues whatever I read. It's good.
I do think once he's going through the Weapon X program and all of that, and we're trying to turn him into, of course, a really tragic character with his with his trying to figure... And again, that's an unreliable narrator thing. He knows about the film... We're talking about the action figure.
Yeah.
He knows about the film history. If that was in the comics, that would be a Dazzler album, almost certainly.
Well, no, it has to be Wham! Because we pay it off at the end.
Oh, that's right.
I worked with a guy that, when I worked at the gas station who every time that song would come on, he would just go, Eric! I was like, what? And he's like, Wham!
But don't you think that once we get him into the Weapon X program, tonally we're getting as close as we ever get to Kelly?
Sure, yeah.
I love all the stuff with Francis and all the horrible things he does to him, and that all feels like old school Deadpool to me.
I guess
even though that's origin and this is not who he was in the comics and stuff. Again, tonally, that stuff is twisted and wrong, and
I guess I just
sticks with me more than other things.
I think if the world's not ready for that movie, they shouldn't make it. And I don't just mean like source material thing. Like, I have major moral issues with this and people that really like Deadpool because of what I think this movie is possibly saying, what people are taking from it, and you wouldn't have that. Like, if we're not ready for the dark version, then we don't get it. I feel like that's how it should be. Is like, well,
right, but we already have that problem in the comics, so
I know, and we shouldn't be doing that either.
No, we shouldn't. But I mean, like you turn that into a film, and the problem is now you're delivering it to a wider audience. I'm with you. I have those concerns too.
To have someone that loves you that much.
But boy, I was so excited that I was. Yeah, see, in so many ways, this feels like your kind of movie. This feels like your kind of romance to me.
Oh, it absolutely is. This is what I strive for.
I don't mean in real life. I mean, like, in entertainment, you
No,
want.
absolutely, absolutely.
Eric is looking for this woman.
Last tattoos. I really want him more in the second season.
I'm married to this woman, but you'll never know it. That's not true.
TJ Miller's...
What do you think of this guy?
I love TJ Miller. But here's the thing.
He's not an actor. You keep saying his name. I don't know this guy. This character. What do you think of this guy? Like, what have you seen him in? Why am I supposed to know this guy?
Well, he's in Transformers 4.
Oh, okay.
He's the guy we both hated and thought was really annoying.
Oh, yeah. Oh, really? Oh,
yeah.
I hated that guy.
And so I rolled my eyes.
Cancer.
I rolled my eyes when he was cast, and I have since seen his stand-up, and he is on a show called Silicon Valley, and he is amazing in Silicon Valley. His stand-up is pretty good.
Oh, cool. Well, that's fun.
He has
I love him in this. I think he's hilarious.
And his humor's real dark. He has a whole bit about how he almost died, and like there was like a surgery thing that had to happen, and he might not have been funny coming out of it. And he was like, "But that's the only thing I have is that I'm funny." No, he's I like TJ Miller's stand up. I've since Transformers 4, I've really come around on TJ Miller. So by the time I saw this movie, I was excited, and I like him in this, and I hope he's in the sequel more. Weasel. He's Weasel. That's his name.
So they took one of the aliens from Galaxy Quest and made him terrifying.
He is one of the aliens from Galaxy Quest. That's who that is.
Yeah.
He's really gotten a tan since then.
I think it's really interesting that they took Deadpool's complete... I mean, he has this to a little bit of a degree, but they took Deadpool's, like, complete lack of empathy and understanding of humanity, and they gave it to a deadpan sidekick comedy relief character.
And Weasel doesn't run the bar in the comics. I don't remember what he is. I think he's the guy that gets Wade jobs or something.
Yeah, I think that's... Yeah, I think you're right.
There's gotta be like 1,000 different cuts of this movie, right?
You think?
Like, every line that he says, there has to be like 15 other takes where he just says something completely different.
This is the only movie I can think of where I actually would would buy it if you told me that when they released this, they had troll copies where they just put things in to some people's copies that weren't in the theater.
Oh, that'd be hilarious.
I could totally have seen that happening. Or where occasionally Ryan Reynolds as Deadpool just comes up and starts talking to you and interrupts the movie, and you have to go somewhere else on the DVD to find the actual movie. Can you imagine if you were doing a commentary and that happened to you? It'd be the best thing ever. You'd feel like he was talking just to you.
Yeah, no, that'd be amazing.
And it's the only thing I could imagine that happening with.
Yep.
Or UHF. It could have happened with UHF, but that's the only other thing.
I wouldn't be surprised. You know, it's funny because they have the writers and it says, like, the real heroes here.
Yes.
No. I think this movie was made like Iron Man. I think they had a structure and an idea. So much this movie has to be improv, right?
I don't agree with that.
At least all of Ryan Reynolds' dialogue.
I think he improvises quite a bit, but I think he has... I don't know where I'm coming up with this. It's just instinct. I get the sense that it's written and he does 4 or 5 different variations and takes. I think that is more likely. The structure of it is too tight to be made that way. Now, I mean, you can make a thing where you say, here's the scenes and where we have to get to, but we're going to leave the dialogue kind of open. And I think maybe she's even improvising some things, but she doesn't strike me as an improv kind of actress.
I would imagine T.J. Miller is.
And it's hard to improv around... Yeah, T.J. Miller is probably an improv actress, but it's hard to... it's hard to improvise around other people's written lines too much.
Mm.
But, I mean, we know that Downey does that.
But I also wouldn't think of Gwyneth Paltrow as a particularly improvish actress, and...
Yeah, so maybe she is. I don't know. And I could be totally wrong. But I really doubt this was made like Iron Man, is all I'm saying.
See, there's another one.
What?
Where he's talking about superheroes and, like, this is not the world we live in, these are not the movies we make, and it was even funnier that this came out right after or right before BVS. Where it's like, what do you... Like, all of the commentary on superheroes is not on superheroes, it is on Silver Age comics. And I guess that's a problem we run into a lot.
Bronze, but yeah.
That's a lot of the problem we have anytime we do something. When we parody superheroes, we're not parodying comic books right now.
You're right. He thinks he exists when he was introduced in the comic books.
Yeah.
Because that's when we were going for shock factor for everything and trying to make everybody dark and angsty, and the anti-hero was king.
Well, and
this movie doesn't know Watchmen happened. And then this movie certainly doesn't know Man of Steel happened.
It has no idea Daredevil and Jessica Jones happened. I really like this joke.
She's great.
Yep.
I don't think it's fair to throw superhero TV shows in there.
Yeah.
Because it's not necessarily the same audience. You know what it's doing? It's talking to the parents who keep having to drag their kids to superhero movies and they don't want to take them.
Well, but he specifically says boyfriend. My boyfriend took me to this. It's not talking to those people. It's talking to the regular 20-somethings going to the movies.
Okay. Yep.
And the number of kids that saw this film is troubling.
That's fair. Yeah. No, it is. And when you say you have moral issues with his popularity, I agree with you 100%. I have a lot of apprehension about Deadpool being sold to children in any way, shape, or form. I don't like it.
Mm.
And yeah, like, we water him down, and he's a different kind of character, and he's got a similar kind of humor, but like, I don't think it's okay to make a kid-friendly Deadpool. I just...
No.
And I get weirded out whenever we make any mercenary, anybody that kills people for a living, like a fun-loving character for children. That's always weird to me.
I never got that joke. Oh! Canada! That's really funny.
I always like that.
This is my favorite joke in the movie.
It's really funny. All the dinosaurs being the T-Rex. The completely different Colossus is just hilarious to me. They just
How
took
is
Colossus
this
off
the
page.
first time we have Russian Colossus?
It's great. I think it's fun because it's confusing with the timeline, and then the movie acknowledges it.
Well, and
here it acknowledges it right here.
Yeah.
McAvoy or Stewart. And as soon as he says that, it all works. He's got to say that.
Nagasaki Teenage Warhead has nothing to do with the character in the comics, but she's great.
Yeah. And she has that really cool costume at the end.
Yeah, oh, she has the definitive
X-Men
film
costume.
X-Men costume. That should just be what they're wearing.
Okay, so can we agree that that whole thing is the thing you wouldn't do in a PG-13 movie?
I don't know. At this point, I don't know. Oh, I mean, showing it, sure, but, like, cutting your hand off and that joke, I don't know
that
at this
all mixed
point
together,
if you
I think that is a pretty rated R thing. But yeah, it's really ambiguous now. Eric and I had this conversation the other day, not on camera, about the chasm with PG-13. Was it me and you that talked about this? Yeah. It feels like there is a broader space of things that are acceptable and kinds of movies for different audiences that you get within PG-13 than there ever was
PG-13 is
G
in
and
no
PG-13.
way a guideline for parents at this point.
It's not.
It could be anything.
It could be anything. The year children are 13 is apparently a really complex and lengthy process.
By the end of that year, you're ready to see, that end of the PG-13 spectrum. You start at this end.
That's right. That is the longest year of any child's life, according to the ratings board.
There's nothing wrong with that guy. I mean, he's bleeding, but, like...
Okay, so at this point, he should know already that he's not here for the reasons that they said he was, right?
Yeah. That's not a word.
No, that's 3 words. It's not even a compound word. Pork and beans is what we're talking about. So, do you buy... This is just a question. Do you buy that this guy is as naive and optimistic as he is? This guy. Forget the comic book,
I don't know.
Deadpool.
Maybe?
I mean, it almost feels like, he's hurting people for a living, but trying to only hurt people that deserve it and stuff. He's just the closest he feels he can get to being a superhero, and he is kind of screwed up from his background. Like, he's not a psychotic. I think we can all agree with that, at least before he puts the costume on. And I still don't think that by the end of the film he's exactly psychotic. Not to the degree that he is in the comics, in the 90s. But he's certainly had a real rough background that gets him to, I can hurt people for a living. And I think he's just trying to be as close to being a hero as he can. Which, again, he's early Deadpool, but different.
Yeah.
I think he knows that there are a lot of really bad people. He just doesn't expect until now that anyone could be like this. I think that's... And I don't know how that guy got like this. That's a whole thing.
Angel Dust's matches thing is weird. This is a thing we do a lot in cartoons, and I guess in PG-13 movies too. When we have a character that smokes, but we don't want to let them smoke, we'll give them something in their mouth, like a toothpick or something. Like that'll be their thing. Or even if it's not an adapted thing, like, well, they're supposed to be smoking, but they can't be smoking, so we'll give them a toothpick. That's clearly not the motivation here. So I don't know what this matches thing is about. Why does she hold matches in her mouth? It's such a weird... And it's a thing I've seen a lot, but usually I know why it's there. I don't know why it's here. Unless she was a smoker and they...
Is Ajax actually her name? That sounds suspiciously made up.
I love that that's also his name in the comic.
It is. It is. And again, he's a real different character, I think. Well, I don't remember.
I don't remember.
I don't remember much about Ajax anymore.
I know he is involved in the Weapon X
X the guy that does this to him. Ah, that looked painful.
Well, no, he's not the guy that does it to him, because that's like an old scientist guy who he goes to.
Right, but I thought maybe is he the guy that's hired? I can't remember.
He's involved with this in some way.
Yeah. But I don't remember if he's this cruel. And that scientist character ends up being kind of fascinating and almost a sympathetic character.
Because he regrets what he did.
Yeah. He does everything he can to atone for it. I'm remembering this now. He's like if Dr. Wily turned around at some point. It's like that. So anyway.
Oh no, you took it to a sad place. Don't do that. We were being funny.
Oh no, your girlfriend's name is the same as the wife of the Kingpin.
It's true. Maybe they could bond over that. Deadpool's about to murder him, and Kingpin's just like, Vanessa!
Vanessa!
Why did you say that name?
And then he bashes his face in with a car door anyway.
I do really want someone to, in the world that, I think I talked about this in Guardians, in the world that we now live in, with Star-Lord and Deadpool and all of these characters that everyone thinks are so cool, I think we now need the reverse of, like, the Ticken things. Where, like, you have a world where these are the superheroes, and they help no one, because they're so self-absorbed and silly, and then real villains show up and just murder them. Like, they're not equipped. We're now in the reverse 80s, where, like, I feel like we need satire about how silly everything is. I want Ninja Turtles, but backwards.
Yeah, I don't know if people would accept it, though, because we play it so much as gritty and, I mean, not always, but I mean, like, we play it, you're right, like as realistic and cool at the same time that I think a lot of people, it goes over their head. I think the absurdity goes over their head now. I think it doesn't really seem silly. I don't know if that would play.
Like I want someone to, like, have, like, somebody try and do a dance-off with a villain, and then they just get murdered.
Yeah, but again, I don't know if it would play because, here's the thing. It worked with comics because within the context of those things, people would, like, you know, look at Miller, Daredevil and stuff. Yeah. People would look at those costumes and they would say, this feels believable and realistic in this medium. Mm-hmm. But if you put it in real life, it would look hokey. Mm-hmm. We've done it now. Mm-hmm. We've done it a bunch of times now. And it doesn't seem hokey to people. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you can satirize that.
I think you can. Like, in comics, I totally think... Like, if you have characters that act like these characters, like Deadpool and Star-Lord and these kinds of characters, and then you put it in what a normal superhero universe looks like, but you let the villains act... Because that's the thing is, they always pull these characters into their world. When Mr. Sinister shows up in a Deadpool comic, he's not the Mr. Sinister the X-Men fight. The second Deadpool has to fight that Mr. Sinister, he's dead.
Yeah. No, that's great. I didn't realize that's what you were talking about.
Yeah, no, that's what I mean is, I want someone to satire these silly characters and how bad they actually are at being superheroes.
Yeah, we're like, you're not... I'm sorry, I didn't understand what you're talking about. Well, I thought you just meant, like, superheroes were silly, now they're not.
No. I mean, I think...
I just wasted a full 3 minutes.
Yeah, it's cool. It's a long movie.
We got the time to waste.
Yeah.
It's not a real long movie.
No, it's not.
An hour 45, thereabouts.
So, I need you to explain this to me.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you've only seen this movie 3 times. I've only seen it twice. So this chamber is what's going to change it.
I'm a genius, so go ahead.
Yeah. This chamber is what's going to change, and we're going to bring this back later. It's going to be what she's put in. And this is like the worst thing that you can put someone in. Okay. So she gets put in this chamber, but this doesn't happen to her body.
Yeah.
Which makes me think that this is part of his mutation, which is weird, but also, if this chamber gives you mutant powers, if this is like the furthest you can take somebody's body, and then they get mutant powers, start with the chamber. Put everyone in the chamber. It's... Just do that!
No, that's a really good point, yeah. Maybe they just got it. Maybe they, like, got it FedExed there, and...
You're the first one.
No, that is an issue I have with the third act, that she's in that chamber for far too long.
And it's clearly
and it
there
doesn't
so
affect her
that
skin or
she
anything.
could have superpowers if they want to in the next one.
Oh, I didn't even think of that. I thought it was just, build tension and stuff, but she's pretty, so she can't be allowed to not be to be ruined.
Because the way it plays, you get the impression that this is what this does to you.
Yeah.
But then she's in it. And
well, he's in it a lot longer than she is.
But it's almost instantaneous that it starts doing it. Like, you'd think she'd have parts on her arm that started.
I guess we're not exactly sure just how long he's in it before that starts happening,
That's
but
true.
You're right. I don't know that there's really any time that passes. That's an excuse before it's anything. I don't know that there's actually any time that passes there.
I mean, he leaves the room and comes back. It at least takes that long.
Yeah. So again, I don't know why this guy is this cruel.
Yeah.
And we are in a world here with characters that, like real people, start as human beings and get pushed to these places. And the optimism in it is supposed to be that you can have a horrible childhood or background like she does and turn out okay and be a caring person.
Mm.
So how did we get this guy?
Oh, that's why she does matches. It's because he needs a match later. That's why she puts matches in her mouth.
Yeah.
I forgot. It's a plot point.
It's just a plot point.
Ooh, I don't like that.
Yeah. Honestly, you could have just had her smoking, and had her do it with matches.
And you got like a lighter off her. So yeah, you just regular matches, or yeah, you could just gotten the match off her.
Just for the I mean, there's
it's
no
just
real
such
good
a
reason,
weird
but...
character choice to she puts matches in her mouth. It's a thing she does.
And why? I mean, I'm making your point because this is an Eric thing, but this is really an Eric thing before it's a me thing. But it bugs me in some things. But why? Why not? Like, why would you avoid having someone smoke in this movie of all movies?
Okay, and it's also weird because we see that she keeps those matches in her bra, but he headbutted her.
Yeah, I don't know how he got
Did he take it out of her mouth?
Yes.
Like she have one in her mouth?
That's what
Is that
happened.
what happens? Okay.
But I thought it was kind of easy.
It is.
But no, you're right. That we need to buy that she had that. I guess it's supposed to just be a quirk that she has these matches. But yeah, it does look like it's just there for a setup, and of course it is. But
it doesn't have to feel like that.
You don't want it to feel that way.
Like if she ate the matches. Like, now that feels like more of a unique character trait that you can do something with.
I've said this before.
This should be why he's all messed up, right? This fire, that's why his face should be like this. And then you don't have any of the problems with the oxygen machine at the end of the movie. The fire makes him like that. Well, I guess he's got healing powers now? I don't know.
That's true. Yeah, no, you're right. That's the problem with it, is that he's already got his healing powers.
Mm.
How do you feel about his not being a mutant in the first place?
I mean, he's not in the comics.
Is he not?
No.
Okay.
He gets turned into it. It's a whole big thing.
Well, I knew...
It's why he's not allowed in the X-Men.
Yeah, I knew that. I don't know what I'm talking about.
Well, and being a sociopathic murderer, like that's the other reason.
I guess I'm just so used to the idea of Deadpool as a mutant that I have this disconnect where I know he gets his healing factor from the Weapon X, but I always think somehow or other he's a mutant before that, but I don't know what his power was, so I guess not. I think at one time before I read Kelly, I assumed he had Wolverine's power and they enhanced it.
Yeah, no, it's a whole thing that he's not a real mutant. I don't even know if the comics remember that at this point. But
I was honestly really impressed with them for including the X-Men at all, because this very easily could have stood on its own and not had anything to do with the X-Men.
Yeah.
And let me ask you this question: besides the whole pep talk that he ignores at the end with Colossus, which you need another superhero to have that, would this movie have been that different?
They're there for plot reasons.
Well, and
So it would have just been other characters, and then why wouldn't you just do the X-Men? This scene always... sorry, I guess this is just all naked guys in fires. This scene always reminds me of V for Vendetta. In V for Vendetta, like, when we get the flashbacks, like, his origin, he blows the whole place up, and you just see him... You can't see his face, but he's standing there, like, naked in the fire.
I've still never watched that movie all the way through.
Oh,
so.
I thought you'd seen it.
No,
okay.
I don't know it.
But yeah, this scene just reminds me of V for Vendetta. Not in, like, a rip-offy way, just...
It's like that, yeah.
Yeah.
Just naked guys in fires.
Yeah, naked guys in fires makes me think of V for Vendetta.
There's a little Terminator there, too.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, but that's skeletons. That's skeletons and fires.
Oh, okay.
Makes me think of Terminator.
Well, no, but I'm thinking the resolution of 2. When he's melting, and he's in a big fire.
He's not naked.
No, but the
That,
aesthetic,
like,
the aesthetic
yeah,
reminds
yeah,
me of it.
Yeah.
No, I'm at this point not still talking about naked guys in fires. I just mean
Talking about fires.
guys in fires.
It's not fires and molten bad. It's just like a
Yeah,
steel mill or
enhanced humanoid-looking people in fires.
You know, it's real convenient they ended up at a steel mill at the end of that movie.
Yes, it is.
The only way that they could stop the T-1000.
It's really convenient that she likes matches for some reason.
Yeah.
And, okay, so let me go back to the X-Men thing. I wonder if you don't need one of the reasons that I'm glad they're here is, even though we're not still really dealing with that with the X-Men continuity we know, it sort of feels like we are because the mansion looks like that, and we have the old X doors and all of that. But having a pre-established superhero continuity trying to make this like a parody or have parody elements of those things, making fun of that stuff, and trying to play him as this, wacky, violent, other kind of superhero. I think it is good that we have a pre-established world to try to do that in.
Are people this mean?
I really think people went into this movie who think they like Deadpool and had no idea he had anything at all to do with the X-Men.
That's probably true.
And when I say think they like him, I just mean just internet meme stuff.
Yeah. Because Deadpool...
I think there are fans of this character that are fans of the comedy, and like when after we saw this, were you there for the spoiler cast? I think you missed it.
I think I missed it.
A big point I made in the spoiler cast was simply, wow, we live in a world now post a popular Deadpool movie where people actually know something about this character now.
Mm-hmm.
Like, regardless of whether or not you think it's watered down, people have now seen a story with this character involved in it.
Deadpool,
he's one of the most popular characters I've ever seen. It's him and it's Hello Kitty, right? Where people like these characters and they know nothing about them.
Yeah.
Like outside of any kind of a narrative context.
It's,
and there are Hello Kitty jokes with Deadpool, and I don't think that has anything to do with that, but...
we've talked about before, like, that there are certain characters that are the icon before they're the character. Deadpool is the meme before he is a character.
Absolutely.
And I don't even mean that disparagingly.
And even icon before the character, everybody can tell you where Superman comes from.
Yeah.
Nobody can tell you Deadpool's origin.
Well, maybe now.
No, but before this.
Yeah. No.
And that's what I'm saying. We live in a post-Deadpool movie world where we no longer have that. People do know what this character is, to some degree now. At least this mainstream version.
I feel like there's a different version of that joke in the trailer. I think it's one of those.
Well, they used in the beginning of it in the trailer.
Okay.
So some of it is here, but there might have been a bit that we didn't get.
Just like an alternate take. Yeah, no.
All the time. Lack of empathy is funny, Eric. Now, the problem with this, of course, this is hilarious. He's not that scary looking.
No, and that is a problem.
I kind of think they were actually too faithful to the look of the comics. I think they should have made that. They should have tried to make that more disturbing.
Yeah, he doesn't
on
look
camera.
Freddy Krueger-y enough.
That's what I think. What do you think of that?
I think it's pretty funny.
It's pretty funny. Yeah, the Captain Deadpool thing is great. If that happened to me, that's what I would call myself, certainly. Oh, I love that. Sounds like a franchise. It's great.
This is obviously a parody of the pilot of Lois and Clark.
Yes.
Um,
I love that somebody wrote a Deadpool rap into the movie, because that's kind of that early 2000s thing, and I think we might be making fun of that a little bit.
Thing.
Yeah, it goes way back. I think we're making fun of that stuff a little bit. Oh, and also like Men in Black.
Yeah, and Wild Wild West. Don't forget Wild Wild West.
No, anything he was ever in before 2000. Yeah, Will Smith.
I used to know the words to the Wild Wild West song. I probably still would if it was played.
We can play it. Yeah, copyright flags. Deadpool, Captain Deadpool. No, I just wanted to ask you what you thought of that, because you often, and I do too, but you often react whenever a character has to, like, get the name from something and they don't come up with it themselves.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes it's dumb and contrived, but it's not...
That's also maybe making fun of that.
Well, but that's also...
But I don't know that's comedy until he says Captain Deadpool.
Okay, so... In the context of the film, it's fine.
Yeah.
I like it better in the comics, where while he's in Weapon X, there is a Deadpool amongst him and other subjects over who's going to live.
Is that what it is?
Yeah,
I forgot about that.
Watered down, PG-13. This is hilarious.
Zambonis are always funny. I have written about Zambonis.
Not the first time I've seen someone murdered by a Zamboni.
What was it?
Dead Like Me. Dead Like Me as a Zamboni murder.
But again, watered down, at least looking at Joe Kelly especially, though it might be, once this film decides what it's going to be, it feels confident and bold to me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, they're not trepidatious about the material they've decided to use. You know what I mean?
No, not at all.
You know, and we should mention that obviously the reverence for this character is here. This is, as everybody I'm sure knows, a massive passion project. This was Fox. Can we please make this movie?
And specifically for Ryan Reynolds.
Yeah, and this is as much his movie as it is anybody else involved, including Tim Miller.
Well, and so much so that in the sequel,
in some ways, it feels like he directed it, and that's not taken away from Tim Miller at all. And I think the directing is beyond competent. I think it looks
absolutely.
Very
the choreography is phenomenal.
It's phenomenal.
But no, it's so much so that in the sequel, him and the director disagreed over the casting of Cable,
and that's why he left.
And the director left. Like that's how important Ryan Reynolds is to this movie. This is very much Ryan Reynolds' movie.
That's real Spaceballs.
We're gonna put a joke like that in Suicide Squad for no reason.
So I'm not gonna let myself read into that. I don't know what I'm actually looking at when he plays us a videotape. So just like POV wise, like okay, so have we been watching a videotape this whole time, and now he's. I guess that's. Except it.
It's also
it can't fully be,
but it's also the same dumb.
It's
the same dumb thing that we do with found footage movies. Like the big thing that we do with found footage movies, right, is like you taped over something, and so you see like a little bit of something, and We're still acting like VHSs are used, and that's the VHS fast-forward effect, not the
No, I know it
modern-day
is, but
fast-forward effect.
I like that because that's just Deadpool being silly.
That's true. That's true.
In this context, we're not... Like you can't make the digital effect look cool. We still do that because we're throwbacking and we don't care. See, I like that he's fourth wall breaking even about the fourth wall break thing. Where they're even making fun of that as a device. I don't like that.
No. It's such the obvious joke.
Yeah. We're talking about the Batman and Robin thing. And again, it's... I don't guess everything has to be movie, but I guess at that point you're just talking about Batman in general. I would have liked more this movie to make fun of specific movie properties more. Because the comics always go to comics. Well, they go to movies too, but I mean, they go to comics a lot.
They were relentless in the comics about BVS.
Yes, they were.
Deadpool just kept making fun of BVS.
There's a Deadpool mini that came out a few months ago. That's Deadpool v something.
It's Gambit.
Cable is a Gambit. Yeah,
it's Deadpool v Gambit.
The V stands for versus. It's great.
I like her.
Now, their banter is great.
She's perfect for this character.
Perfect.
I just need this character more. And she's not a character that I think is around anymore.
I don't think so.
I don't know what happens to her, but...
Every now and again, in like, one of those oversized things, they'll do a short and she'll show up for a second, but I don't think she's really in continuity.
He almost looks normal here. Like,
oh yeah,
he just kind of looks like he's got a bald cap on.
Well, when they close in again, you see more of it.
Yeah,
but that's the problem with it, right? Is that it doesn't shoot real well at a distance.
Like, it almost feels like if all the damage is here, just wear a wig. You look normal.
Can I suggest that it might have been somewhat of a FaceTime thing? Where they were afraid of Ryan Reynolds not looking recognizable when he takes his mask off because he's in the mask so much, and they want you to be able to see Ryan Reynolds' face, or they want to be able, and this is fair, maybe it's not FaceTime so much as performance. We want to make sure we don't cover up his performance too much. He's real expressive, but then you have a mask the rest of the time, and I mean, yeah, you've got the eyes that, and we haven't even talked about that, because we've had it in Spider-Man now, to it. But it was a big deal.
It was a huge deal. It beat Spider-Man to it.
We've been waiting for that forever. People have said for years it can't be done.
Yep.
You can't do expressive masks and do that impossible comic book thing where the eyes move independently of anything else in the face. It totally works, and it's amazing.
Yep.
And of course, in the MCU, you have to have some kind of an in-story reason for it.
Yeah.
Arguably.
Yeah.
Arguably. And if Spider-Man showed up and was just doing that, I don't know that I would argue with it.
No, I wouldn't.
But I see why they did that. I love that we don't have anything like that in this. Just this being the kind of thing it is, that it's just an impossible thing that we get to see and move on. It's great.
This is a joke that I think is like kind of disturbing funny, right? But I think you can get away with this in PG-13.
At this point?
I think you can. I think you can do this joke in PG-13.
Again, at this point...
Is this far off from anything in the Transformers films?
Not really. Now, I know that's the obvious go-to, and I don't want to be hyperbolic about it, but I think... I don't know that it is.
And obviously, it's more tonally appropriate in this film than it is in, the movie Selling Toys to Children.
Yeah. When you went to the theater, did you see any kids?
I did not.
Okay, I don't know if I did or not. I saw kids at Watchmen, and they got up and left.
As they should have. This is maybe the stupidest thing you could possibly do. Alright. So there's a bar full of mercenaries.
Yeah.
And you're gonna go pick on the owner. He's not the smartest villain I've ever seen.
Does he just...
I wouldn't go pick on Josie.
Does he... Yeah, I wouldn't either. Does he somehow rather just not know that that's what this place is? How would you find out that Wade has been around here but not know what this place is?
They recruited Wade from here.
They recruited him from here. I was going to say, yeah. He just thinks he's that much of a badass, Eric.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, I don't know why he's doing that. He knows he's in that part of the movie where he's not going to die yet.
Yeah.
That's why he does that.
Now why don't they just shoot him now?
He referenced the movie.
He should have said Blade 3,
2.
though, right? Blade Trinity?
No, well...
I'm
Either
sure
one works, but I do think they look more like they're wearing the costumes from Blade 2.
That's true.
That's why he says that. But yeah, Eric, they referenced a movie we've done in this series.
Yeah.
Yeah, nearly everything he says is funny.
Yeah.
And it's really cool that they got a kind of sidekick character that matches Ryan Reynolds in comedy. Like, he's as funny as Ryan Reynolds is.
Yeah. So we go to a strip club.
And there's Stan Lee.
It's the worst thing you can name somebody.
Chastity. We had a whole conversation about this the other day.
But so we go to a strip club, but once again, she is not a stripper. She's a waitress at a strip club. Because we don't want to... I feel like we don't... I don't know, we don't want to make her a stripper. We don't want to make her a hooker. We want to make her seedy. She's got tattoos. She works in this kind of place, but she can't actually do these jobs.
They are keeping this part of it ambiguous. I still really do think that she was a prostitute. But... And I never would have questioned that at all until you brought it up. You're the only person I've ever heard talk about that. And I'm not saying that your argument is invalid. I was really surprised when you said that. I never questioned it. And I guess you could make the argument that she's waitressing now, but sometimes she strips, but that's probably not it. So I don't know.
And we won't see it because, again, even though this is R-rated, there is no nudity in this movie.
Right.
Even as risque as that sex scene goes, we do not see her.
Yeah, it's rated R, so you could have.
And we also there's that gag with Angel Dust at the end where you don't see her either. Like, there's no nudity in this movie. And
she has played that actress, unless you're Eric and you don't believe this, 2 prostitutes now in genre things, and was, of course, never nude in either of them.
Yep. Well, I mean, the other one was on TV in the PG-13 movie.
I'm just saying. And, of course, no idea if that's an actress that would be willing to do such a thing. But if you wanted to do that, you would hire somebody that could.
And I'm not saying...
I doubt that has anything to do with why it's not. And I don't know that you have to have nudity in this movie.
No, I don't either. Well, but it's more of that thing where I'm like, well, you're not really making an R-rated movie. Like, people acted like this was so boundary pushing, and I'm like, it's barely R. I mean, it's not PG-13, but it's a really soft R.
Today.
Yeah.
Today.
But he's dead. Do we comment on the fact that we fall into the steal the girlfriend trope? Is that commented on in the film?
I don't remember.
It should be.
No, it absolutely should be.
It should be like, yeah, real original. I saw all the Spider-Man movies. I know what you're doing. They all do it.
All of them. Does the lizard grab her and run off with her?
No.
Is that the one movie that doesn't do it?
And Amazing 2 doesn't do it either. Well, I mean,
No,
she
it
gets
does.
killed,
She gets grabbed by him.
Yeah, but
It's
that's not the "come to me, I have your girlfriend."
No, it's not the third act plot point. Like it is in at least 20 superhero movies.
Including this one.
Yeah.
And that's the kind of thing where I'm like, I think you're smart and you can comment on superhero movies,
but you're just doing one.
And you can't, like, they don't actually make good points. Like I hit the superhero jump thing, because I
don't like that either.
That's how you would land. That's the most logical way to land with your physical mass.
Yeah, and I can't name a lot of things recently that have done that jump.
Iron Man does it. That tends to be how he lands. And it's the cover of every Marvel. It's the poster for every Marvel movie, but it's...
Well, and this is a stupid nitpick, but in the theater I was just like, but it's not a superhero that does it. You're all superhero jump. It's not a superhero that does the jump.
Yeah. It feels weird to me where I'm like, but that is how you would land. Like, it makes physical sense. It's like that joke in Force Awakens where Han Solo does this and he's like, "What's this? What are you doing?" And I'm like, "No, people make that motion. I do that. Everyone does. This is not like a movie thing that we can make." Joss Whedon ruined everything. Because he knew things that were weird in movies.
That one doesn't bother me as much. It's a long time ago in a galaxy far away. Maybe they don't make that gesture back then.
No, but they still say we've got company.
They also talk very informally and like we talk now. So
You talk TV? I talk TV.
You did that for so many years before I had any idea what the one you were talking about. For so many, I finally saw Transformers movie and was like, oh. Well, and I racked my brain. I've heard this somewhere. Where is it? Where have I heard this? And then one day Eric does that, and I'm like, I was racking my brain trying to think of the movie or TV show where I heard that. It was just you! So we're already at the third act.
Yeah.
It's a swift movie. I think that was a real smart choice.
It's funny because
we know there were things that were cut, but of course it doesn't feel like that. I don't feel like anything's missing.
Structured like Man of Steel. Man of Steel also starts in the middle of the movie and keeps flashing back throughout the entire second act, which is also the first act. But it does it well and knows what it's doing and is thinking about this.
Yeah. You mean this movie?
Yeah, this movie.
Yeah. But Man of Steel more well, and part of this, of course, is because it also has an opening 15 minutes that are the last 15 minutes of another movie.
Yeah.
But it doesn't really start halfway through the movie.
No.
Like, it's more that it just keeps randomly flashing back to certain. It's not nonlinear. I'm not really sure what you're talking about, actually, with Man of Steel. Like, it's not nonlinear like this is. It's not the same kind of structure. It just occasionally goes back to Smallville, and it even, like, mixes up the order of events there, too. You know what I mean? It's not like it has a subplot that takes place in the past that we keep checking in with. It's not that.
No, but it always felt to me like it was written like...
It feels like it's doing that because it begins.
Well, no. Well, it feels to me like they wrote it like... Superman the movie, and they're like, well, we can't do that again. Like,
no, that's right.
I think that was how it was.
Yeah, but the difference is there's not a whole story that happens in the past.
That's
true. It's just particular moments that we go look at that are supposed to inform things that are happening in the present, but they're kind of somewhat randomly placed.
I really like the Ripley from Alien 3 joke that he makes when he opens the door. I like that Deadpool can make... I say obscure. It's not obscure, but I guarantee you 80% of the audience hasn't seen Alien 3.
I don't know what reference we're talking about right now.
She opens the door and he goes, "Ripley from Alien 3!"
Oh, that's right. Sorry, I was talking about something else and I missed that. That is a carefully crafted joke so that you feel like you get it even if you don't get it.
Mm.
Because you said Ripley and you put the word alien in there. So people that have seen that movie know what that scene is a reference to specifically, but everyone knows what Ripley and Alien are, so they don't feel like they're left out. And I think that a lot of the humor in this movie is like that. It is really strange to see this kind of material and this raunchiness and vulgarity and stuff trying to be so accessible.
Yeah.
And again, weird how well it ends up working. I like the gag of Deadpool constantly forgetting to get his weapons. I don't know why. That's funny every time. I think some of it's because he's so armed to the teeth. We don't overdo the chimichanga Mexican food thing.
No.
That's good. Because again, that's a meme thing, that's a catchphrase thing. It's fun because it's random. So much of Deadpool is just, it's random, right?
Yeah.
Like his obsession with chimichangas, it comes from nowhere. It's a weird, funny sounding word.
This is not the first time he's done this. Is it the third time he has done this?
What, walking toward the camera?
In slow motion to music? Because it's in Blade 3, and I think it's in X-Men
Oh,
Wolverine.
I didn't know what you meant by that. I thought you meant in this movie.
No,
I wasn't sure what we were talking about.
No, the slow motion superhero walk, or the cool guy walk.
Yeah, no, he does it in every movie
he's done it.
Is it in Green Lantern anywhere? Is there a place in Green Lantern where he does that? Now I want there to be.
Where does the maximum effort thing come from?
I don't know. I'm not sure what that is. I wasn't familiar with that until this movie, and now it's a thing everybody says.
Yeah.
And I guess I don't know why. That song with Deadpool is funny to me. I don't know why. Can we all agree that the music in this totally works?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
I think it does.
Oh, yeah.
See, she's not a superhero. It's a stupid nitpick, but
it's how you would land. I don't understand. Like, I hate when we act like something is the dumb trope.
The punch into the ground, not so much.
No, I think that's how you would want to land.
But you wouldn't punch into the ground.
I mean, if you were
would have a big
you
hole. Yeah, that's true. I wanted to mention the thing with the taxi driver. I kind of like the idea of showing someone who is inspired by Deadpool and they're making horrible choices. But again, it's just played for comedy. And I mean, it is a comedy, but there also certainly are, massive consequences for our main character. So I kind of wish that went a little bit farther and said, see, kids, don't act like that.
Adults don't act like this.
But you see my point. That's what I mean. Because yeah, like, you see the trunk get caved in, and there's a person in the back, and he's probably going to prison. But
maybe he'll be the villain in the sequel, and he'll get revenge on Deadpool.
That'd be great.
No, I've told you what I want.
But this is to your earlier point, and I'm not sure that I 100% agree with you. But the idea that but I just think that could accidentally play into. Well, I guess I do agree with that. The idea that could accidentally play into glorifying, some of Deadpool's behavior that ought not be glorified.
He's just saying words.
He's just saying words, yeah. Why is Muppet in the middle of it?
I don't know. But yeah, no, her costume is amazing. It should be the standard X-Men costume.
And it feels like we can go all the way here because it's absurd and comedic.
But Apocalypse looked so much worse just from the trailers where I'm like, how did we just have the perfect X-Men costume and then you're giving me this crap?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't have wanted that costume in that movie because timeline-wise, it's. I mean, I don't mean timeline. I just mean like in the '80s, would that be the costume you want? Wouldn't you want it based more on '80s comics? But.
Well, but it looks like it is.
Because isn't that more the Whedon suit?
It's kind of the Whedon suit, but the Whedon suit is just kind of a riff on the original X-Men costumes.
True.
Like the way I always like the X-Men.
So you think they could have put the '80s X-Men in that and it would be fine?
Yeah, the way I've always liked the X-Men is that the X-Men have a base costume, which would be that, and then as they grow up and become more individual, they do a riff on it. She's not my type, but I really have a thing for her. I don't know what that is. Like, that is not the kind of chick I'm usually like, she's really hot, but I don't know. I saw this movie and I was like, that chick.
No, you're right. The X-Men should never have identical costumes.
Yeah, no, because it's about individuality, but I like a base.
Yeah.
Well, and you start with identical costumes when you're the young people being trained, and then when you kind of graduate to X-Men, you kind of diversify your costume. That's how I've always seen the X-Men.
Yeah, because you're supposed to find yourself in that school.
And I think...
And be yourself and be proud of who you are, but know how to work with a team as opposed to letting the world tell you what you have to be.
I think when they do the New Mutants, initially, they all have a costume like that. I have a thing with this, but I don't remember what it was.
Something that bothers Eric. He doesn't know what it is that bothers him.
No, it didn't bother. I remember what it was. I thought that their fight was going to lead to them sleeping together. And that was going... Because I thought what was going to happen was, oh, look, he's learning to loosen up. And I thought that was going to be a thing. And I've seen it in other, like, action comedies where, like, you start fighting and then you start, like, being together. And I thought that's what was going to happen with Colossus and her, and that it didn't. I don't actually have a... It's not like it should have been that way, but when I first saw this movie, I was like, oh, well, that's where they're going with that.
So the more I'm thinking about this, the character arc is a little bit different than the way I was describing it earlier, I think, where he's lost his optimism for himself that he can be a selfless hero and not have to, murder and maim and hurt people. But I don't know that he's really lost any empathy, really. He still only kills bad people.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't encourage people like the taxi driver to do bad, irresponsible things, but again, only to bad people. I'm not saying that makes it okay. I'm saying that he isn't... He says he's not a hero. He's not really a hero.
How come?
What... You do have to ask yourself what the audience takes from this versus what it's actually saying, as you were saying. But again, I want to think that it's... That if we can be smart enough to just look at this from the perspective of the character who's telling the story. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm glad that they had Deadpool tell his own story. But anyway, I'm sorry.
Why is the machine not already on? Other than dramatic effect, why wouldn't you already have this be happening to her so that when Deadpool gets up there, she's already, like, in the throes of pain or dead? Right? Like, why wait?
Yeah, I suppose so. Because he wants Wade to see the whole thing happen?
Okay. I just
asked
him, like, it gets up
question,
there,
yeah.
He's just dramatically posturing and standing there, and... No, I've told you who I want for the villain for the sequel, right? Because I think you disagree with me. I want Mr. Sinister.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Because this is the only thing that will do him full-blown Dracula comic book. Like, that's why I want him in the sequel for Deadpool, is they will do him off the page.
I disagreed with you pre-apocalypse.
Mm-hmm.
I'm more with you now. Because at this point, well, and also, no, even pre-Logan, because I thought we were setting him up for something there, maybe, and then we didn't. So, yeah, I'm afraid if we don't do him in Logan, we'll never get to see him. I mean, maybe not never see him, but do anything cool with him, because I don't trust those movies now.
Mm-hmm. And he's so theatrical and over the top, he seems perfectly made for a villain of a Deadpool movie in certain aspects.
But I want them to make him scary.
Yeah!
And let him be, as you were suggesting earlier, the really terrifying Sinister, and not changed for this world, you know?
Yeah.
whatever it is, I hope it's a costume villain.
Yeah.
I hope it's a classic.
And I think Ajax is one of the bigger complaints people have with this movie.
Yeah.
He's kind of a generic villain. I think he's fine.
He is. I think the performance is really good.
Yeah.
I think Deadpool's revenge motive is effective enough.
Well, and the idea that, like, he's the opposite of Deadpool. Like, he's not an anti-Deadpool, but, like, he doesn't really have a sense of humor, a way to annoys him.
Right.
What you do next cannot be that again. It cannot just be another stoic guy that Wade annoys.
I take MODOK.
Yes! Oh, MODOK would be amazing!
I take MODOK.
They
all
can't
day
do
long.
MODOK, but he'd be
Why
amazing.
not?
Well, he's a Marvel character.
Oh, is he?
He's Captain America.
Oh, yeah, of course he is. What am I talking about? They could do
Mojo.
Mojo.
Oh,
Mojo. That'd
would be great.
Yeah. And yes, I know the difference. I just for a second forgot that MODOK wasn't an X-Men character. But yes, Arcade could be okay.
Arcade could be okay.
This is creepy and I love it. It's just... I love that. I don't know why.
Now, do you
I also
think...
expect more of that kind of silly, trippy cartoon stuff in the sequel. Because that kind of thing comes up in Deadpool a lot. It's in the video game quite a bit.
Do you think Colossus and... I forgot the name. Negasonic Teenage Warhead. Do you think they'll be back in the sequel in any major capacity? Do you think they will be continuing supporting characters?
I don't know. I hadn't really given that any thought.
Because once you throw Cable in, like...
I think it's possible you just don't get X-Men in that movie because you got Cable.
Yeah.
I think it would be funny if you had both of them and you added a third person and Deadpool was like, our movie was successful, so our sequel got just enough money to add one more. We talked over it, but that's one of my favorite bits. When he shows up at the mansion and no other X-Men are there. So we didn't have enough, but my theater roared at that. This was a fun movie to see with an audience.
Yeah.
Okay, so for the sake of fairness, I feel like I should mention that there are some people that had kind of experienced a Deadpool story and had more of a sense of him in the context of something because of the video game.
Well, and it's
which
weird.
Nails him character-wise, certainly.
It's weird because...
And has a ton of X-Men stuff in it.
Deadpool's popularity kind of... The main...
Sinister's in that.
Is it?
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. The swell of Deadpool popularity starts to come out around it's Hulk versus Wolverine.
Yes.
And Marvel Ultimate Alliance. Those were two... Like, that's before he becomes, like, mainstream, like, completely Facebook meme. That's a lot of people's first exposure to that character as well.
I could never in a million years have imagined that he would eclipse Wolverine.
And he totally
And
has.
he has.
Absolutely. Wolverine is very much the this is your dad's superhero kind of a thing at this point.
I think that's true. My dad's superhero is Captain America, but does your dad have a superhero?
Probably not.
When Sarah and I were dating...
It's probably a girl. Whenever we play fighting games, he picks girls.
Oh, really? Whenever... I didn't know you played fighting games with your dad.
Oh, yeah.
Whenever... When my wife and I were dating, before I had read any Deadpool, and I didn't really know anything about him at all. I just knew he was an X-Men character and, Liefeld and stuff. Mm. And I don't remember how this came about, but we used to have... This thing we would say to each other where we go back and forth and be like, Deadpool's dead! And I don't remember why, but like that was a thing.
Deadpool's dead, Jim. Plastic surgery. Oh,
I guess it
wig,
doesn't stick.
as mentioned before.
I'm not sure. I never really totally understood why the healing factor doesn't heal his face.
I don't know. it must be explained in the comics, right? Well, it could be a pre-existing condition thing, right? Like.
If you just already had something.
Yeah,
but doesn't it happen simultaneously? Doesn't he gain the power while his face is changing?
Yeah, I don't know. I think that's a small gun.
That's
it's a real tiny gun.
Yeah, that's almost a noisy cricket. The speech is great. However you feel about the way this ends. You know, watching this again, and we've been talking all the way through this, but I'm actually more okay with this ending than the last time I saw it. But again, I don't want to think that, like you suggested, that audiences are looking at this and going,
I don't think people
Deadpool
think,
cool
he made the wrong choice. I think people
But I think the movie is saying that he did.
I don't think it is. I think this is a real too cool for school thing, like, nope, that's boring.
But I think they do a good job of, especially on this viewing, I feel like they do a pretty good job of making...
And isn't he such a wimp because he can't handle that and he throws up?
But I'm just saying that I buy with his character arc that he refuses to be the hero, and that's what he always wanted, and he can't, and he doesn't feel like he can have it, so he's like steering into that.
We'll get one for each sequel this movie will get.
That is, of course, textbook opportunity for change. And it comes right out and tells you that that's what it is, which is kind of fun because that's also sort of maybe making fun of formula a little bit. But it is weird that they don't talk about the stealing my girlfriend thing, because that is just straight up superhero movie formula.
And this is another one of the instances where I think we haven't talked about this at all, aside from the eyes, but
yeah,
that we took a costume just kind of right off the page, and like, I think the excuse is, well, it's funny, so we're okay with this costume. I think you can do a serious movie with a costume like this.
Yeah, me too.
I really do.
Especially because there's like disturbing things in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
You can also have a character that's fully masked and has pages and pages of dialogue.
Mm.
I think the one-upmanship gag with them is pretty funny. I think it's effective. I mean, as
I forgot about this joke. This joke
humor
really
and stuff, but the stapled on Wolverine mask, yeah, or Jackman thing.
Yeah, it's like from like People magazine or something like.
And that's funny because he makes fun of Wolverine and Hugh Jackman
as if they're the same person.
Yeah,
it's great.
And acts like he has an Australian accent. And that's pretty funny. Okay, it is hard to buy that he did all that fighting
with that on,
and that the staples didn't like push into his
or
face.
that he was able to see it all through those little. I don't know if you ever worn a mask like that of a magazine, but there's not a lot of.
It's
no peripheral.
It should be more crumpled than it is.
Movie run.
If MythBusters was still on, Eric. Can you fight for 20 minutes with a mask stapled to your face and another mask on and be able to see and it not get too crumpled up? Find me the guy willing to do that.
That's another thing you can make fun of, like something like that, where it's like I can't see because I'm setting up this silly gag that I'm gonna do later, and then the villain just blows his brains out because he can't see because he's being dumb.
Well, and of course, like, he's not... He refuses to be the hero, but he still gets the girl anyway, but she's kind of messed up like he is. And I guess it's a little bit weird that Colossus, like he's supposed to be hopeful and optimistic and stuff, but isn't it a deal breaker when you've murdered that many people?
Well, and also,
I mean, again,
but you're on the
they're
team
bad
with Wolverine.
guys, but yeah, okay, never mind.
Would Colossus
That's
even
true.
would Colossus even complain about killing?
No, that's a,
The X-Men are not exactly the most like non-lethal of superhero teams.
that's true.
They kill people.
That's a good point you're making.
They kill Apocalypse. They don't kill Magneto, but that's because he's the bad guy in every movie. And I guess they don't technically kill Shaw, but...
And just on principle, no, he dies in the most horrific way possible, thanks to Magneto. But there is, just on on principle, there's a part of me that likes that he doesn't do the right thing and kills the bad guy at the end, because he's mowed down all these other people. That is a pet peeve of mine. It never makes any sense when you have, and we've done this with superhero movies. I can't think of a great example right now, but
it's okay that you murdered all these people, but now in this one emotional moment,
the really important guy, the guy that's been after you the whole time, don't get like, because that's revenge. You know, and I'm like, well, maybe we're already, kind of past the point of no return.
Oh yeah, Ryan Reynolds is one of the producers.
Yeah,
one of 3. Simon Kinberg is the guy over, ruining the X-Men movies, and then it was Laura Schuler Donner,
right?
Whatever her middle name is.
She's
been producing since I think the beginning.
X1, yeah. I think Ryan Reynolds will be playing this character forever.
You think so?
Yeah.
Or at least until the joke wears off.
I don't know that it will. I couldn't believe it lasted as long as it did before we finally got a movie. I don't know that it does wear off.
Because that's my biggest issue with...
And it's his brand now. Like, if you're a fan of Ryan Reynolds, you're a fan of Deadpool. Like,
that's my biggest issue.
He could almost get away with never taking that suit off now. Just in real life, like...
That's my biggest issue with Deadpool in the comics. Before any of this really starts happening is I'm like, Deadpool's a joke, and this joke has gotten old, and he has 6 ongoing monthly titles, and he's in all of my other comics, and I'm tired of this joke.
Yeah.
And then I just didn't look at anything with Deadpool for a while, and so I'm able to appreciate, the odd Deadpool comic or this movie or whatever, but I don't know. I maybe jokes wear old faster for me than they do for other people, but by Deadpool 4, I might be bored by this.
Yeah.
Maybe everybody else won't be.
I think we need to be really careful to tell a lot of different kinds of stories.
Yeah.
And I think there could be a case to be made that you can tell different kinds of stories with this character.
Theoretically, the next one should have time travel, because we're going to have Cable.
Where like, he's really jokey. Yeah, like maybe the next one is the more cosmic thing. This is the revenge thriller. The next one is the more, sci-fi cosmic thriller thing. I say cosmic, I just mean, pseudoscience. And then after that, you go to some other kind of subgenre.
Mm.
So, like, the humor stays the same, but the flavor is malleable of the overall story.
You do some kind of like horror movie.
And
one.
Deadpool goes to space.
Yeah,
Deadpool, there's a lot of different things you could do.
Yeah.
And I want us to not keep it street level. We need to let it go everywhere it can go.
Mm.
Make a big case for this is as versatile as the fans of this character think it is. So, like, what I'm saying is, if it doesn't feel... He can have the same sense of humor and tell the same kinds of jokes and it not feel like we're telling the same joke every movie.
Yeah.
Just make the movies not about a joke. And I think we did an okay job of that this first time. And that's why I think moving forward we can do every kind of...
Is 2 next year?
Yeah. Isn't that crazy?
It is crazy.
So there was, and I don't know if we've had any more news since then. There was talk about Pierce Brosnan as that character.
I want to say I heard somebody else since then.
Okay. I
forget
loved
who
that
it
idea.
was.
I loved it so much.
Yeah.
And I really hoped that's what it would be, because I think that makes so much sense.
No, I can't remember who it was, but there was somebody else that I heard like a week ago was like, oh, this is who Cable most likely is, or something like that.
Is it anybody we know?
Yeah, it was something I knew.
Okay.
Like, I didn't have to look him up, but I can't remember.
Do you realize that Brosnan would have been really cool?
Brosnan would have been really cool.
Because I went and looked at a recent photo of him, and I was like, oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I never would have thought of that, but yeah.
It was that picture with him, with Hugh Jackman and Ryan Reynolds.
Yeah.
Where he's got the gray hair.
Yeah, that is what it was. Yeah. He just... That works for me. I would have loved that, but...
The best like fan casting I've heard is because he just looks like Cable. I don't know if he'd be right for a Deadpool sequel, but the bad guy from Avatar, you remember Cable in Avatar?
Yeah.
The big jacked silver-haired guy with stars on his face.
Yeah, I've only seen that once, so I'm not picturing him right away. I remember he was just generic, stereotypical.
He drinks coffee while he burns down the rainforest.
Yeah. But he reminded me a little bit more of like Sam Lane or something than Cable.
The wild man of Borneo.
Oh, Borneo! Sweet Borneo!
Oh, that's right! The Great Lie is going to come at the end of this movie.
Mm-hmm.
Next time we're going to have Cable. Great character. No one believes that. No one likes Cable. Can we agree on this? If you think you like Cable, you liked Cable when you were a kid and still have nostalgic fun. No one actually likes Cable, right?
I don't know. That's not a character I've had a lot of discussions with people about. Like, I don't know. Like many people, I knew him from the cartoon show. That was about it. I don't know.
I don't know. I don't think.
Where is he in that show? He's in that show, right?
Yeah, he keeps popping up.
Okay.
Because he's got a whole cross-time war with Apocalypse.
That's right. That's what it was.
Yeah.
Okay.
These are reasonably length credits, although it's a reasonably priced, budgeted film, so that makes sense.
Yeah.
So there's kind of two stingers at the end of this, and I hate it because
are there? I thought it was just the.
There is, and this is the thing.
Oh, really?
Well, this is the thing is. This part.
Yeah, I thought it was just this Ferris Bueller thing.
Well, and then he comes back and says Cable's going to be the next one.
Right.
So this part
How's
of
that
it
too?
Well, here's the thing. Is this part of it when they pre-screened the film? This was here. The Cable thing was only in it when it actually went theatrical.
Oh, okay.
And I was so annoyed because people kept saying that there were two after-credit scenes.
Oh, okay.
And I was confused. And people were like, well, yeah, there's that, and then there's the Cable one. I'm like, that's the same thing. Like, well, it fades to black, so it's not the same scene.
Yes, it is. Really?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
on,
people said this had two after-credit scenes.
Okay.
Amazing character. Lies.
Dictionary definition of amazing. Amazing like Spider-Man. He's got a bionic arm. He's amazing.
They should totally bring in Keira Knightley and have her play Cable. I forgot he says he's an amazing character and then says any big guy with a flat top can be it.
That's pretty great. Well, folks, thanks as always for watching. We sure appreciate it. And like I said, it's nuts that we're already
Dolph Lundgren would be great as Cable.
into 2016. It feels like it's still 2016 to me.
Yep.
And what do we have on the docket next?
Civil War.
Civil War, yeah.
Civil War, then Apocalypse, then Doctor Strange.
And then Doctor Strange. That's
so
it.
Close.
That's everything. So 3 more left, folks. We'll see you again, hopefully tomorrow. And in the meantime, I am Captain Logan.
And I'm Eric.
Thanks for watching, folks.